Welcome back in here on another Sunday evening. It's 6 o'clock, and that means it's time for the post-up with Kaylee Denker. I'm Jake Bakovin in studio with Kaylee and her special guest. Kaylee, I'll throw it to you to get this thing rolling.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. I'm Kaylee. I'm an incoming junior at Bellevue University. I play on the women's basketball team there. And today I have John and Matt with me. And then just to get started, how was your guys' weekends?
It was good. Huskers won football, came back today and won in volleyball, so pretty good weekend.
Yeah, life's good. Can't ask for anything more. Yeah, big Husker victory. My high school team's football team did well. Our volleyball team did well. So, yeah, life's good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, what football games did you guys watch this weekend besides Huskers?
Yeah, of course, the Texas-Ohio State game. You know, everybody's eyes on that. I'm a big New York Giants football fan, so I've been an Eli Manning fan all my life. So watching the younger Manning boy kind of get after it, you know, I seen they made a joke about that he was adopted, so I'm sure he'll bounce back after playing that big Ohio State defense. But I love just watching all the college slate. So yeah, it was a fun Saturday yesterday. So
yeah, I took in a little bit of the Alabama FSU game. That was kind of fun to watch. Watch the same Manning show. I won't hold that against you that you like the Giants, but good football. I always like college football starting up. It's fun to watch.
And then what about high school football? What games did you guys watch this weekend, if any?
So my school, the Del Rodell Griffins, we play a little 6-man football down in our little universe, and so we got off to a hot start this weekend, beating Harvard 81-0.
There we go.
If you ever watch 6-man football, it's quite a track meet. So that's where I was at Friday night. That's where I spend a lot of my Friday nights. So that's what I was doing.
6-man, you still can't hand off the football, correct?
You can't. So you cannot run. The first person that touches the ball cannot run with it. So a lot of times your quarterback might be the second person, where you'll hike it to someone and then hand it off, so then they can have the pass run option. It's also 1st and 15. It's a little different. It's a little different game. I tell like you know, it was a big controversy. We went to it a year ago. You know, last year was our first year playing 6-man football, and a lot of the smaller 11-man schools had went down to play 8-man football, and a lot of the teams we used to beat in 8-man football are now playing 6-man football. And so we were eligible for 6-man, so we decided to drop down to it. And it's still football. I mean, you're still hiking the ball and throwing the ball and hitting people. I mean, there's some big hits in 6-man because it's a lot of wide open space, but it's definitely a speed game. So, but yeah, it's fun.
Center's eligible, correct?
Everybody's eligible. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, and that's kind of fun because a couple of the bigger kids that maybe in the 8-man where you have the 3-man line, you know, they don't get to catch the ball. And so, you know, yeah, the center's eligible. They run a lot of ins and outs down the field and stuff. So yeah, it's a different game, but it's fun. And there's a lot of schools, you know, there's a lot of high school schools playing 6-man football now, you know, and now actually the NSAA next year will go to 3 8-man classes, which will be a big change. So it's always, you know, in our world and in high school, John, as you know, I mean, that's always a talk of, you know, how are we going to have enough kids to play all these different things, especially in a small school, because we want to keep all those small schools alive. So,
yeah. So for me, I at North Bend Central, I watched our North Bend Central Tigers take on the Malcolm Clippers. Came up a little short against them, but I always love Friday nights. It's something special in high school, I think, about playing on Friday night under the lights, and kids get pretty jazzed for it, and it's fun to watch. I enjoy doing that.
And then I went to the Freeman game in Adams, Nebraska. For those who don't really know where that is, it's about an hour away, 30 minutes to an hour away from Lincoln. But it wasn't really the outcome that we wanted for the team. But Coach Ken Cook was recognized, and the field was renamed to him, which was super exciting. He was one of my coaches in junior high, and he coached my grandma, my mom, my uncle, and myself. So it's really exciting seeing him get that little accomplishment. And then just to go back to you guys, like, where did you guys grow up? We're all from small towns, so just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm from Table Rock, Nebraska, a little small town in the southeast corner of the state. So my high school was actually Table Rock Steiner is what it was. We were the Tigers back in the day. Man, I should be a little bit better at this, but that was 25 years ago. I think I had maybe 12 in my graduating class, 10, 11, 12, something like that. We actually co-opted sports my senior year. with Humboldt, and we made what is now HTRS is the current school in that school district. And we were actually lucky enough. I got to play with some good basketball dudes, and we won Class C2 state championship actually my senior year with the sports co-op. So yeah, I love the small town, and I'm obviously at Diller Odell now as the principal there, and I just love small towns and the relationships that can be built in the small towns. So
I grew up in Wymore. I went to Southern High. I had 49 or 50 in my graduating class, which was actually a little bit bigger than most of the other classes. But I enjoyed my time there, going through school. And then now I live in North Bend. I coach at North Bend Central, and we're a Class C2, C1 school, have mid 40s for class sizes. So I think, as Matt mentioned, small community feel. Kids get to know each other pretty well. Sports are a big deal within your community where you can show pride for what you do within your school and your town, and very fortunate to be part of those things.
And then what sports did you guys play growing up?
Yeah, so being the small town kid, it's a lot different than being here in the city where you maybe specialize a little bit more. But back then, you were almost expected to play everything. You did the football in the fall, the basketball in the winter. Some schools might have had the wrestling, but most of it was the basketball. And then you did the track in the spring. Some small schools were fortunate enough to have maybe golf as another option. And then a lot of us, then you played baseball with 3 or 4 other towns. I think that's maybe when I first got to know John a little bit was when Wymore, Pawnee, Blue Springs, Tabor Rock, all of them, I think were maybe having like a Legion team together or a midgets team or something. I'm not for sure. Or maybe Southern still had their own. But anyways, yeah, then we did all that in the summertime. So yeah, it was great. I like I said, the opportunities you have it's just crazy compared to the bigger school. It's definitely a lot more competitive. You got 500 kids in a class, possibly. You're a Lincoln East girl. You had what'd you have, 450, 500 in your class?
Closer to 500. I
think.
Yeah.
And it's a sure numbers game. I tell people all the time, like small schools have a lot of good athletes. I mean, we got our fair share of kids that go on to do awesome things, but it's we don't have, you might have in your class, 40 or 50 really great athletes where we might just have 1 or 2, in our whole building at the time or whatever. So yeah, it's just a numbers game. But
yeah, for me, I played, like Matt mentioned, I played all the sports that we had. I played football in the fall, went to play basketball in the winter, ran track for 2 years, played golf for 2 years, played baseball every summer, and very lucky with my experiences throughout those. I had great mentors and great people to kind of work with. Made some of my best friends going through that. Really enjoyed just kind of the goofy stuff that we did when we were playing. And I think that's what small schools kind of offer, is that ability to do all those things. And I'm very blessed that I coach at one now where we have kids that are involved in 3 sports, and they're part of one acts, and they're part of speech, or they're part of multiple clubs. And that's something that we're lucky enough to offer. Many of our kids take advantage of that, where maybe at a bigger school, there's other benefits to being at a bigger school, but maybe you aren't able to do quite as many.
Right.
Well, then it causes a challenge though for like John and I, John being the AD, and I've been in the AD role, but currently in the principal role. But it's a hard blend then when, like John talked about, with speech and one act. I'm not for sure at his school, but at my school we have a big FFA program. And those teachers are always very passionate, and those coaches are passionate about their extracurriculars as well. So balancing all those stuff, it can become a challenge in our world to do all that. So
yeah. And then for everyone that doesn't know, I grew up in Adams, and I was always a 3-sport athlete pretty much my whole life until about my senior year of high school. Then I just cut it down to basketball. But do you guys see multi-sport athletes a lot, like right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, like we talked about, definitely in the small school, you're seeing it. I'm a little bit linked up and tuned in to the big schools as well, and I kind of follow all the classes, but I think we're not seen as what it once was, and even in the big school, I don't think you see as many 3-sport athletes as it once used to be. And I don't know why that is. If it's just there's so much demand and so much like talent that you have to specialize almost to be able to get out there onto the basketball court or to get on the football field. But I wish we could see more of them, you know what I say? Like I said, in the small school, we see quite a bit of it. A lot of our kids do almost everything, which is fun to see. But I do think it's becoming harder to find those 3-sport athletes. So
yeah, I would say we're seeing more dual sport athletes, so to speak. We'll have kids that will play football and basketball or football and wrestle. And then we get to the spring and the opportunity to play club or AAU sports is so prevalent that they choose not to do track or golf or whatever they might do because they can do basketball, volleyball,
sure,
7-on-7 football now.
Yep.
And they can really chase a passion that they may have for another sport. So I think we're seeing less and less kids choose the route to play 3 sports and maybe kind of have a specialty sport and then a sport they'll play. I think that's something I notice more and more, even at ours as a school. And I think it's also a financial aspect of it where people are financially investing in their kids doing club sports. So I think that sometimes takes the importance or onus away from being at your school when I'm financially putting in money for you to do a club sport. I think we just see kids focus on that a little bit more often than they were when you and I were in school, when club sports were really not prevalent or a thing. I mean, we're that old.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, seriously, when we we're old, we're both old dudes, man. And, during our time, there wasn't, maybe the Valentino's team or the Godfather's team. And
I wasn't making that.
No, me or you either, buddy. We weren't doing that. But, yeah, I think now you just do. You have so many more things in that volleyball world and the basketball world with all the different clubs that are available. And even, like you said, there's just so many different things, even the football stuff, offering the 7-on-7 and those kind of things, which I think they can be great. I think they can be great for kids that really want to explore those avenues, but they can be definitely costly. And so if you are going to dedicate yourself to that, you got to kind of pick and choose sometimes,
How did you feel with that going through school? Did you feel like as you got older that you needed to kind of specialize in one area?
Yeah, I felt like a lot of times, well, in Adams, when I was still going to Freeman, I was involved in volleyball, basketball, and then track, but I still did club, which a lot of the other girls in my class didn't really do that. So a lot of times they were all hanging out, but I was like working out up in Lincoln or doing something. And we didn't have club sports like down in Adams necessarily. So I'd have to drive an hour or two every single day to go do those workouts, which is pretty hard. And then just like managing, doing homework and all that stuff on top of it. But I'm really glad that I did do it. And then when I came up to Lincoln, I was still doing all the club sports, but until I committed to Bellevue, and that was my junior year. So, and then I kind of cut it down just so I didn't have to worry about injuries or anything like that. And so then once I found out I wanted to do basketball, that's the only thing that I did. I quit volleyball and track, but I am really glad that I ended up doing all 3 sports. And then I was also heavily involved in different clubs and leadership groups and activities as well at Lincoln East. And we had an equity cadre too through the district. And I just think that all of that is super important for leadership skills and just making connections and networking. But I guess like for your guys' kids, do you encourage them to do multiple sports and like go into different groups, or how does that kind of work? And talk about a little about club and like how hard is it or easy is it to manage all of that as parents and I guess for your kids?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure John says the same. I mean, we always just pushing kids. We want kids out for things.
Mm-hmm.
The number game has gotten really hard in a small school. You might only have in our situation where John's a little bigger than us, but we have anywhere from 16 to 20 kids in every class. We have 16 in the freshman class or whatever, and we have 16 in the sophomore class. And you might only have 6 or 7 boys in that. So if only 1 or 2 of them are going out for football, all of a sudden you don't got enough.
Right.
So we're always pushing them to want them to participate in things, but they also got to make those decisions for themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm overly aggressive, or our coaches aren't overly aggressive with it, but definitely trying to steer them to go out for everything. I tell all my kids I'd like them just to go out for something, in the fall, go out for something in the winter, and we offer some other things, some softball and baseball now with Beatrice, and we do a couple other things that we do offer. But and if you're not going to do that, then be on the speech team or go out, And then as far as the club goes, we had been pretty good in volleyball over the past few years, and a lot of that was the dedication of the girls at the time and their parents to come up here and do the club in the Lincoln. And like you said, it's a good hour drive. 50 minutes, an hour or so. And those parents were dedicated to bring those girls up and play that club. And I think when you do that, it can make a big difference because you're playing with other girls or guys from a big school that have a lot of talent. And so, and then we reap the benefits of it. We won 2 state championships since I've been there at Dillard Odell in the volleyball. And a lot of that success was because of those parents that were dedicated to taking their turn to, and on the other side, now we don't maybe have as many kids playing club, and that's fine too. We don't push that, but I do think there's an advantage if you're willing to go do that. I think you are going to, you're going to see some benefits for that. Right. But to me too, sports isn't everything. I mean, in the world that we're both in, we agree with this. I preach all the time that we are student athletes. You are a student first and an athlete second. You great. We all want to do these wonderful things, but I'm also proud of my school and all the academic numbers that we put up and the test scores that we do and all those things as well. So, but as we also know, sports is a big part of what runs all the schools. I mean, even here at Nebraska, I don't think a lot of people probably can name the chancellor or the president, but they can tell you who the head football coach is or who the head volleyball coach is. So, yeah. So that's kind of how we manage it where I'm at. John?
Yeah. So at North Bend, we do try to encourage our kids to be part of multiple things. From my standpoint as an activities director, I just ask our kids, think about being part of anything. When you're part of our school and part of the atmosphere that we have, I think it's just leads itself to giving you traits that'll make you a successful person. And that doesn't always necessarily have to be a sport. That could be 1X, that could be speech, could be other things. But I think that there's a value in being part of a group and part of a team that relies on you. And we are very fortunate. We have a lot of kids who do those things. And we have a lot of kids that do club, whether it be volleyball or basketball. 7-on-7 football has become something some of our kids have done. And I think that when you go through those things, the more opportunities you can give yourself to be part of stuff, the better off you're going to be. But it's always a balancing act. I think, like I mentioned before, I think the spring sports have it probably the hardest when multiple sport club or AAU opportunities are available. And we're working hard to try to find balances in that, to try to give kids opportunity to do AAU things while also still be involved in school things. And I know my own son has some choices he has to make at different times about where he's going to allocate his time. But I really believe that schools in a small town are kind of a hub and a heartbeat of what you do. And I think there's a lot of good things that come from your school being part of things and your community feeling a passion for your school and kids getting to experience that. And I think that's why we keep pushing kids to be part of multiple things.
Oh, for sure. And nobody wants to lose their school.
No,
I mean, and there's a lot of small schools that are losing their schools, and most time, hopefully the consolidation or the co-op or something works out. But there's a lot of small towns that, unfortunately, when you lose that school, that's kind of the hub, the town definitely starts to die a little bit in some situations. So yeah, definitely wanting to get people to come back to the small towns. And then when they're there, yeah, we want them going out for stuff. So yeah, you can have that school pride and have your own football team or basketball team or whatever it might be. So
then talk a little about the pros and cons of a K through 12 or a smaller school.
No, that's a tough question. I think, when I look at it from a smaller school standpoint, the pros, we kind of mentioned a few of them. I think there's still a lot of value that people have in their town through their school. I'd venture to guess that North Bend Central is probably the biggest employer in the town. So you have a lot of people who are in town or coming to North Bend because the school brings them there as employees. I think that's a big part of it. I think there's a lot of pride that goes into our grounds, the way our school looks, the way we present it. I think that's a big thing for our school. I think those are all pros because people care about it so much. you get a chance to do some pretty neat things with your community. I think having that community involvement is really important. When you have a positive community involvement, it makes it even better. I think the cons are almost the exact it's transverse of some of those things. Sometimes in a small community, it is difficult because if something goes wrong or if something's not working quite right, it can be tough. It can be a vocal place that people aren't happy. And because the town's not huge, it feels really big when maybe it's not as big as it feels. And then
what do you got class size there, John? What North Bend like?
We're
40?
C1, C2, and then our classes are, mid 40s.
Yeah.
And so I think some of the challenges then, as Matt's kind of alluded to, then come back to when you're trying to field a football team or have multiple sports or multiple groups going at the same time. Coaches are all trying to do their best to put out a product, or sponsors are doing the best to put out a product that's successful. And so you're trying to get kids to go out, and sometimes that leads to some conflict of some feelings between coaches if things don't work out and one kid goes up for this sport instead of this sport. So if I lose a all-star basketball player to my wrestling coach, Ken Streff, we have to make sure that we're still good. And, we're very fortunate where we're at and that we don't do that. And I think those are kind of the pros and cons that I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, life is obviously what you make of it, and making the most of it. I do think that, and nothing against the big school. I think the big school educate kids the best they can as well. But I just think in the small school, the relationships that are built can be so much stronger because your ratios are better. During the crazy COVID time, they talked about social distancing. I mean, we're already doing that in my school building. You know what I mean? And you can reference, you probably had maybe 30 kids in your college algebra class at Lincoln or whatever, and, our biggest class is like 22 kids, know, and so our classes, there are 10 or 12 kids in life science or whatever it might be. And so that relationship then that the teacher and student can have, it's just so much different than what can happen in the big school, and I got a lot of friends that teach in the big school, and they talk about that struggle of building that. And there is so much more pressures on teachers and coaches right now to meet standards and everything else, which is great. And so then we lose track sometimes of building relationships, which is huge in education. When you talk to anybody who's ever been a positive influence in your life, what's it usually come back to? We all think of that coach or that teacher, right? I'm sure of all three of us, and maybe that's a question that you're going to hit on, but I think you think of, who is your role model? You look back at your basketball coach or your football coach, or maybe one of your favorite teachers, and so I do think the small school, and I think the big school can do that as well, but I do think in that small community, you get that. Now, some of the cons, I don't know, you are what you are, I mean, as far as I talk to kids all the time, there's 18 of you in this 6th grade class. And, unless anybody goes anywhere, you're all going to be with each other for the next 6 years. So you better start getting along a little bit better, make sure you're respecting each other, where in the big schools, I think you get a few more groups where you can find your niche. And in the small school, you maybe don't have that quite as much. And that's why you do try to offer the speech and the FFA and the FBLA and all the other programs that we can try to offer. Yeah,
I agree with those. But you did bring up one of my next questions, like who inspired you to be a coach or a teacher, educator, or whatever?
Yeah, and glad I led into that. For me, both my parents were educators, longtime educators. My dad was an industrial tech teacher, and my mother was back in the day when it was family consumer science, which we've kind of got a little bit away from that. And then she was a counselor. And so for me, it was easy to want to be an educator, to want to be a teacher and a coach, which I first was, and then rolling into a AD, and then now rolling into a principal. And I'm actually just finishing my superintendent degree so I can be a superintendent of a small school someday is the ultimate goal. But yeah, I look back on it. It was those couple teachers. My basketball coach was a huge influence on me because I love to play basketball. I was lucky enough to go play a couple years at SCC down in Beatrice. And then after that, I just knew I wanted to teach and coach. So I came here to the university and got a great degree there. But yeah, I think it is those people. And that's why I talk to my teachers all the time and my staff and my coaches all the time about, kids do look up to you, and you are, whether you believe it or not, you are. And so I think that's why it's important to make those kids' day each and every day. And, you don't know what they're going through outside your building. So when they're in our building, we want to make the most of it and get the most out of them. But yeah, so I look definitely my parents and then my boys basketball coach, Terry Borcher, was a big influence on me. And then, now in my professional life, guys like John and other guys that you're not in this alone, but I'm reaching out all the time to other principals in my conference and other superintendents and guys I talk to and make those connections and those strong relationships. Those are guys I look up to. So.
Yeah, for me, I think the teacher part would have to be my mom. She was definitely a servant of people. She wasn't a teacher, but she led our youth choir. She led our adult choir. She was just a servant of others and gave freely of herself. And I always thought that was what made her special. If you ask people now and about her memory, that would be one thing they bring up, is just the type of person she was. And that was something that I wanted to experience that. I wanted to know what that felt like to help others grow and to do things for other people to make their life better. And then Deb Hartman, I don't know if she's listening or not right now, but she was fantastic for me. She was just, in my memory, of course, in elementary school, she just treated everybody well. I always thought she did such a great job of making people feel special. And I just think of people, those are two people that stick in my mind as far as a teacher goes. They were just very servant based. They were very much givers of their time and their efforts to make other people's lives better. And I really wanted to do that. I knew that's where I wanted to find myself at. And then the second part of it was, not to be a complete stereotypical guy, but I knew I wanted to coach. And to coach, I knew I had to get into education and I had to kind of find my way in that way. But as a coach, it was my boys basketball coach, Dan Malik, who was then at York. And he really challenged me as a person, as a player. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to be somebody who could do those things. And that's what kind of led me down that road. And I think those people were really influential in my life as far as pushing me to be a better person, pushing me toward that direction. I'm very thankful for them. How about yourself?
I would say that I have a couple different ones, but I'd say once I moved up to Lincoln, it was more of like Grant Peterson. He was one of my history teachers, and he was a coach as well. But I also think that some of my club coaches, like Pete Ferguson, he also has his own little segment on 93.7. He was one of a big part of my life, growing as an athlete, but also as a person. And then when I was at Freeman, it was Ken Cook, like we kind of talked about earlier. So, yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. This is the Post Up with Kaylee Denker. We'll be back with more on 93.7 The Ticket.
Hi, I'm Casey Oddie, and I'm the Retail Banking Manager at your local Midwest Bank branch on 70th and Pioneers Boulevard. Banking may be my job, but supporting the community is what I care most about. Whether I'm showing up at local events, partnering with schools, or helping people reach financial milestones, I am proud to be a part of what makes Lincoln strong. Let's build something together. Stop by and say hi. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank. Member FDIC.
Take control of your health with the DASH scan at Advanced Medical Imaging. The DASH scan is a full-body MRI designed for advanced health screening. This dynamic approach provides exceptionally sharp images across multiple organ systems, helping to detect potential concerns early. With minimal radiation and no invasive procedures, the DASH scan offers a safe, comprehensive look at your health. Plus, results are delivered faster than ever, giving both patients and physicians confidence in screening and diagnosis. Your health is too important to wait. Schedule your DASH scan today at Advanced Medical Imaging. Visit amimaging.com or call 402-484-6677 to learn more. MWR is dedicated to building attractive, affordable steel buildings that exceed your expectations. From commercial to residential to agriculture storage, steel buildings are cost-effective, attractive, and versatile. Plus, they're a lasting investment and an ideal choice. MWR uses Sentinel Building Systems out of Albion and can service you all over the state and region. If you have interest in a steel building, post frame building, or fencing, give MWR a call today at 402-980-5273 or go to mwrbuildingandfence.com.
If the power is out, traffic lights might be too. If you come across a dark intersection, treat it like a four-way stop. See more tips at les.com/safety.
When it comes to concrete, Stevens & Smith Construction doesn't stall. They go for the takedown. As Nebraska's full-service concrete contractor, they stay in bounds, hold inside position, and never forfeit quality. Whether it's foundations, flatwork, or concrete coatings, they elevate performance and pin down results that win every time. Stevens & Smith Construction is a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket. Because when it's time to wrestle with concrete, Stevens & Smith Construction slams expectations.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law Group and find out how we can help get you the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group. Trial attorneys you can trust.
Stonebrook Exterior is your trusted partner in exterior solutions for both residential and commercial projects across Lincoln and Omaha. With over 2 decades of expertise, they deliver everything your building needs, all under one roof. From roofing and siding to gutters, wall systems, custom masonry, and metalwork, Stonebrook handles it all with precision, safety, and professionalism. Take the worry out of your exterior projects. Choose Stonebrook Exterior, where quality, safety, and service come together seamlessly. Visit stonebrookexterior.com or call 402-934-5559 to get your free quote today.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
We are back here on the Post Up with Kaylee Denker, and she's got her special guest in studio. So Kaylee, I'll throw it back to you for our second segment here.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. If you guys didn't miss that first part, I would go back and listen. I'm here with John and Matt today, and I guess for this next question, just like talk about your guys' high school journey a little bit more. Like, did you guys ever go to state as a player, an athlete, and then how did that make you feel? And like, how do you feel when your teams now go?
Good, Johnny. You take the lead, buddy. You get the ball rolling.
Well, like I said,
can you remember back that far, buddy?
No.
I mean, I know you're old.
I'm kind of like Hoosiers. It's a long time ago. No, my high school experience as far as sports went was, I was like I said, I was very fortunate. We didn't always have the greatest football team when I was playing, but I did enjoy that experience. We had guys show up to the weight room. We try to get better each time. And I think that had led me down a road where when you don't find success right away, you learn how to kind of keep working through it and work through the challenges. And I thought that was important. Basketball, we were always pretty good in basketball. I was pretty fortunate to be part of that. I got to play a lot when I was a freshman through my senior year. So there were some challenges as far as maybe not always understanding what it's like to have to wait. I think that was the hardest part. Then when I transitioned into college and played baseball, I had to learn how to wait. I didn't get to play right away, and that was really hard for me. And so I think that's helped me out now as a coach, where you talk to your players so they can know what's expected or know what they can go through, and you try to help them through that. But I'm not on the NSA website like Matt is as an all-time leading scorer. So you can go on that. You can see him on there.
A lot of cherry picking buckets I got.
Yeah, but I didn't have. I had a really good experience. Like I said, my basketball coach was a great influence on me and teaching me the game and helping me see it from a different point of view, not just as a high school player. He always challenged me to kind of think a little bit ahead and think about more than myself and think kind of bigger picture. And I think that's been a huge part of me becoming a coach. And as I moved down the road, I thought that really aided me. And like I said, I ran track and I played golf. So I ran track for 2 years. I played golf for 2 years. And then as far as, I never made it to state as a player, as an athlete, like this guy over here did. But I've been fortunate enough that
I was lucky to play with some good dudes, man.
Yeah. Well, they were giving you the ball, telling you to go hoop. But, as a coach, I've been fortunate enough. We did make the state finals one year. We were the runner up, and we've been to state a couple times. We've had some great success, but I've never seen a good coach with bad players, and I've had some tremendous players come through in my time at all my stops. I've been fortunate enough to coach some really good kids, some really good players, but some of those memories are kind of long lasting. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely, Coach Bear. You did a nice job. I remember you on that run and just being there with you and stuff from the outside in. That's a fun time, man, and you got to take advantage of those opportunities, because they don't come that often. There's a lot of schools in the state that have never won a state championship, and there's a lot that have won repeated ones over and over again, so but yeah, I had a great time in high school. I tell people all the time, there's nobody like your high school friends, so choose them wisely. You're gonna move on and go to college, and then you're gonna get a group of college friends, and then you're gonna move on in the work world and get a group of work friends. But you're always gonna get back together with those college or those high school dudes. I think of my crew. I got 2 older brothers, of course, and then I had these Ethan, Rush, John, Mike, Trent, all these guys that we still get together, and they actually seen I was coming on here, so they hit me up in the group chat we got going on, like, oh, you got a face for radio, dude. And I'm like, yeah. So, but those guys, when you get back together with them, and we had a good time. Had some really good football teams at times, had some pretty good basketball teams. The track atmosphere is fun, but I was fortunate to be under some good coaches and play with some good dudes. And like I said before, my senior year, we won a Class C2 state championship. We were 24-4 that year. And, I've moved on past it for sure, but I still like to bring it up and remember it, especially when you get together with your buddies. And actually, I hit a shot in the sub-district finals against my current team that I'm the principal at. Yeah. So, and the coach at the time, Eric McMurray, I hope he's listening or wants to listen. And my boss, Mike Meyerly, was around at that time. And so, I still bring it up to Eric every now and then. He's no longer coaching basketball for us, but Mike likes to give him a hard time. Like, don't you think you were supposed to guard Matt? We were up 3 and then you let him shoot a 3. And it's just kind of funny. We like to joke around, but yeah, those memories are real special. And then, I coached for many years after that. And I was blessed when I coached here in the city to be around a lot of talented guys. I mean, I could name just dudes on dudes, Matt Hill, Levi Hamilton, Mike Mason, Darius Vick, Derek Schaus, JD Jurgensen. I mean, I could just, the Price boys. I mean, I just was fortunate enough to play with a lot of dudes that not just went on to play basketball somewhere, but that also were talented to go play football somewhere. To go, I think both Trent and Taylor played golf at Nebraska. Just guys like that. So those were fun memories for me. And then just looking back, Coach Smith, Jeff Smith, was a huge influence on my life, the old Lincoln Southeast basketball coach, and I keep up with him all the time. And some of the coaches we had on staff at that time have went on to be head coaches at other places. And just those connections and those memories you make are just for the lifetime, man. You know, it's just something that you definitely dream about. So, yeah.
Wow. That's nice. I'd say like for mine, I don't really know. What about like a memorable moment?
Well, like I said, I hit a pretty big shot against the old Dale Giffrins back in the day. I'm sure I'm going to get harassed at school on Tuesday, but you know, and then we just, like I said, I was fortunate enough to play with some pretty good players in a small school. You know, we had 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in that. And in a small school, if you got that, you're pretty lucky. You know, in the big school, you find a lot of depth. But the problem in the small school atmosphere is you might have 1 or 2 guys, but you don't always have, you know, that 3, 4, and 5.
Yep.
And when you can do that in a small school and find that connection, you can be, you know, you can make some pretty talented runs, you know.
Right.
So, yeah. What about you, John? Was there that moment of shine somewhere? I'm sure there was.
As an athlete, I wasn't very good. I don't know. I just, you know, I think my most memorable moment that I've had is as a coach, as far as like an in-game moment, was the year we did go to the state finals. When we won our first round game. That was the first win in the state tournament for the boys in North Bend Central history, unless you want to count the Class H win in 1927, which I do not personally. So I apologize. I apologize to anybody on that team. But you know, for me, when we won that game, that was kind of a special moment for me to see our guys get to experience that and know that that's something that no one else had ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really a me moment necessarily, but to get to be around those guys and to see that moment was, I mean, I still get goosebumps when I think about it, and I've watched that film a few times. It's pretty incredible, and you know, those are the things that you kind of never forget, I suppose. And that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think being a teacher and a coach, there's a lot of awesome memories that you have and moments, and you know, and there's just so many special kids that you get to work with and be around, and I'll always just cherish all those moments. And then just running into those guys or the people you coach, and they come back and talk about this or that, you know, makes it real special for sure. And then, like, I know John and I, we're old now, so we've moved on to now chasing our kids around and watching our kids play, you know. Right. And I didn't think there'd ever be a feeling like being a coach until you get to watch your kids play. And I know, and we obviously, John knows your mother and father well, and I do too. And I just know they're, you know, proud of you and proud of your siblings and stuff. And there's just nothing like, you know, watching your kids be successful at something. And that's kind of how I feel in the school realm as well. I like to just see our kids be successful no matter what it's at, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I'd say in high school, like, we never went to state for volleyball, but for basketball, we went my freshman, and then I think it was my sophomore year. And then I went for track every year that I did track. So I'd say that, like, for a memorable moment, it would just be like all the connections that I've made throughout the way. Like, it's not one specific time that I was like, oh, I really remember this. But I'd even say, like, as a team, going to state and accomplishing something is so much, like, greater than just doing something for yourself, because I was a discus thrower, and I guess like track in general is kind of like an individualized sport, but I really like being a part of the team and having the team aspect part of it. But how do you guys kind of like find officials and stuff now in schools?
Yeah, you know, John does a lot more of the AD role that I do that I do anymore, being in the principal role. But I know my AD works hard to try to find the best officials they can. I know it's becoming harder and harder to find officials, you know. There's a lot of football teams that have to play on a Thursday night now. There's a lot of teams that have to double up. They have to play an afternoon game. And sometimes we hear from people in the community like, well, why did we got a 3:00 game? Or, well, we kind of had to take our turn so that we could get officials. I know out west they're really struggling with high school football officials and getting them to come out. And it's getting harder and harder because a lot of people just don't want to do it anymore. And so I think it's important to get our communities and our fans and everybody to make sure we're treating them with respect and being thankful officiating is not an easy job. I've done it. And I've actually made my son do it with me. I've got to have John's son ref with me a little bit. I like to ref some youth basketball. Someday I might get a little more advanced and get into the high school game or the college game. But it is getting harder and harder to find people to want to officiate stuff. And with the club stuff, it's just there's a need of so much more and so many more officials. So it is getting harder and harder. But now I think it can be worthwhile. I think it can be something where you can learn a lot of stuff. I think when kids officiate, especially young kids, I think they learn the game better, whether it be football, basketball, volleyball, or whatever it might be. I wish more youth would learn how to officiate, because I think you then have a greater respect for officials. Sometimes I even wish I think I would have been a better coach if I would have officiated first, because I think you have a little more understanding of what they're going through and what they see, So, yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and put a pin on the conversation for now. It's a great one, so we'll come back and pick it back up from there. This is the Post Up here with Kaylee Denker. We'll be back after this.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Feeling off lately? Struggling with your mental well-being can make everyday life harder, and it can also increase the risk of substance use. Early support can make a big difference. Visit myhealthymind.crediblemmind.com and take the free mental health check-in assessment. In just a few minutes, you'll get non-judgmental feedback, local resources, and next steps to help you feel more in control and supported. This message is funded in part by the CDC OD2A grant.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197. Attention all Wings fans. Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays, enjoy 40% off boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.39 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today, 68th and O, or in Williamsburg Village.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Are you tired of living in pain? At Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, they make it simple. From head to toe, spine to extremities, they've got you covered. Their multi-specialty team of experts in orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, podiatry, physical therapy, and occupational therapy all work under one roof to get you back to living life pain-free. Don't wait another day. Visit prairie-ortho.com today or call them at 402-489-4700. Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, where healing begins.
Take control of your health with the DASH scan at Advanced Medical Imaging. The DASH scan is a full-body MRI designed for advanced health screening. This dynamic approach provides exceptionally sharp images across multiple organ systems, helping to detect potential concerns early. With minimal radiation and no invasive procedures, the DASH scan offers a safe, comprehensive look at your health. Plus, results are delivered faster than ever, giving both patients and physicians confidence in screening and diagnosis. Your health is too important to wait. Schedule your DASH scan today at Advanced Medical Imaging. Visit amimaging.com or call 402-484-6677 to learn more.
We are back here on the Post Up with Kaylee Denker, and it's normal time, 6 to 7 every Sunday. So tune in when you can. We got one final segment with you here. Kaylee, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. I'm an incoming junior at Bellevue University. We left off on talking about officiating. So what about you, John?
Yeah, I just tell them they're great. That's where I start. When they come back by me, I just tell them that was a great call, regardless if it's on us or not. That's kind of how I get them on our side. But on a serious note, it's harder and harder because less young people are getting into the gig, whatever sport it may be. There just is less people going into officiating for a gamut of reasons. The pay is all right. I would say that. I mean,
Sure,
the pay is all right. You're not making millions of dollars, but it is worth your time to do. I think, for me, when I was a young coach, I think I argued a lot more than I do now. I don't say near as much as I used to. Maybe some of the refs out there that ref our games will disagree, but I think the hardest part for getting people into reffing is we'll start somebody reffing when they say go to college or when they're seniors or freshmen, sophomores in college, and they'll ref some stuff and they don't have a great experience. It's a situation where it's maybe it's an AAU type of a deal where the parents or the fans are right on the court, so you hear a lot more stuff than you do if maybe you're reffing high school. But I think that's the challenge. It's just getting more and more young people into doing it. That's something that we've talked about in North Bend. We've had several kids get into umping softball and baseball during the summers. And I guess, like Matt mentioned, my oldest son, he comes down and refs. And I think it's great for him to experience that and to learn the game from that side of things. And I think it also aids him in understanding that we're all human. We miss things, we miss calls, we miss whatever it is. It's not personal. And I think that really is helpful for him.
Yeah. Now, what's it like officiating? Like, I think both of you guys have some experience in that. So kind of talk about that.
Yeah, it can be fun. It can be, rewarding. You're still part of the game. That's the biggest deal I like to do with it now is I feel like I most of the time do a pretty good job. And so there is a lot of, unfortunately, some bad officials out there that maybe don't work as hard as they need to work to give the kids a great experience. I mean, John talked about this earlier about servant leadership. We're in the serve business. We're here to serve kids. We're here to educate kids and to give them the best experience possible. And so it can be a big rewarding upside if you're willing to do it. And also, they say when you can't play anymore, you coach, and when you can't coach anymore, you officiate. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not coaching anymore, so now I'm officiating to still stay a part of it. But it can be, it can definitely be fun. So
yeah, I mean, I think my players would tell you that I'm an awful official in practice. I am just terrible.
You're toughening them up.
I know, but as a coach, I've never missed a call. Like whether I'm 90 feet away or 9 feet away, I've always been right. But when I actually ref, I think it's just, again, it aids me in remembering how it kind of works. And Matt kind of mentioned it. I think as long as you're working the game and you're trying to do the best you can for kids, that's all I ever ask.
Yep.
And I think that goes a long ways into coaches too. If you see a guy or a lady that's working hard to ref your games, I think you respect that and it goes well.
Yeah.
So I bet you guys don't you don't like getting yelled at, but how do you kind of so you guys don't like getting yelled at, but I bet you don't like the officials at your own games getting yelled at either. How do you kind of die down the crowd sometimes if they start yelling at the different officials or refs?
Yeah, proximity is a lot of it. John and I get the opportunity to supervise a lot of games.
Yeah.
From the AD standpoint, the principal, whatever it might be, and a lot of it's just proximity. Being over around that parent or fan, and hey, we're gonna act a certain way, and all that stuff. And yeah, it's not fun, but it's just part of the gig. I mean, you just got to do it, right, John?
Yeah. I think I've had different experiences with, depending on where we're at. We kind of mentioned, I think sometimes in the summer and some of the AAU events I've been at, maybe the refs get yelled at a little bit more because, again, proximity.
Sure.
The crowds are literally on the floor in a bleacher. Where in a school, a lot of times people are off the floor a little bit more. But I mean, honestly, on the real side of it, we don't have a ton of it. We don't have a ton of what I would call abusive parents toward refs.
Yeah.
I think
I'd agree with that too.
And I think it's important as a ref, you kind of know when you're going into it, people are going to say things, and it's important not to have rabbit ears and try to hear everything and engage in that conversation. I think if you can
focus on the game, focus on what you're doing.
And if you can let that go, you'll be fine. But we don't have a ton of it. I mean, I'm very fortunate. Our fans are great. We get some great fans that come to North Bend Central. We don't have a lot of that.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate too. Our fans do a really good job at just, being fans. But it's also, there's a lot of emotions. I mean, you know how it is. We all three have played sports. You played sports. Emotions run high when it's your kid out there and they're battling, and you want them to do their best and all that stuff. And but yeah, I think when the fans are fans and coaches are coaches and refs are refs, life's pretty good. So
all right, that'll wrap it up for this week. Of course, we'll be back, like we said, the post up every Sunday now from 6 to 7. I'd like to thank Matt and John for stopping in. We'll hear from Kaylee next week again on the post up. Stay tuned. We got plenty more on the ticket here on a Sunday night coming up after this.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to